Welcome everyone to our Hand to Mind webinar. We want to thank Brooke Brown for doing this wonderful webinar for us on multisensory approach to literacy. As a reminder, you have all come in on mute. And if you have any questions, you may put them in, you may type them in the question box. If you're having trouble connecting to the audio, make sure that you choose the audio caret that's on your control panel and either choose to connect through your phone or through your computer. I am now going to turn it over to Brooke, and she is going to help us learn about literacy. Take it away, Brooke.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon to talk all things hands-on literacy. This is one of my very favorite topics. I'm going to share all kinds of simple strategies that you can use with manipulatives around your classroom, things that you can incorporate into your guided reading, your literacy centers, all kinds of fun things like that. So first of all, I hope that you guys have had a great day of teaching. I know a lot of you have had your teaching situations change tremendously in the last few weeks specifically. Some of you are still virtual, some of you have been in person all year, some of you are still doing the hybrid thing, which is, oh my goodness, all of you are rock stars, and I hope that you know that. I hope that you know how much you're appreciated this year. It has been one of those absolutely crazy years, but something that I was reminded of recently is that it's almost April, and we have almost made it through the most weird, difficult year of teaching. I know that it has been for you as well as me too, and that is very much something to be proud of. So let's dive right in with some strategies to engage your kids with hands-on literacy. Just a little bit about me. This is my classroom. I am currently teaching virtually this year for kindergarten through 3rd grade in Norman, Oklahoma. I have almost 100 students across 8 different schools this year. I am teaching one day in person. I just started that on Monday of this week. I have my kindergartners in person. I've forgotten how much I've missed my sweet kinders and being in person and being in my classroom when I'm teaching. It just fills me with a different kind of a joy, but I am grateful that I was able to teach virtually this year. I've been teaching for 17 years, all early childhood years. I was general ed for 10 years before I moved to gifted and talented. So in my role now, I do a lot of math enrichment. I do, of course, STEM is one of my biggest passions, coding, robotics, maker spaces. I also do advanced literacy book clubs with my 1st graders. So that's primarily what we're going to focus on today. This is my family. Ellie is 10. She is in 4th grade and Bo is in kindergarten. They just recently went back to in-person school a few weeks ago, and they've very much missed their friends and their teachers, and they are just in this happy little world and so grateful to be back in school. And this is my husband, Andy. He is my partner in Teach Outside the Box in my business. So I'm a teacher, but I also am a business owner and a product creator. And I have a partnership with Hand to Mind for STEM bins and reading construction toolkits, which we'll get into a little bit in just a little while. So let's talk about why and how it is so important to engage our students with those 3 main pathways to the brain. We know as elementary educators how important it is to make those connections, to make those hands-on connections with our students. We know that learning by doing is how our students learn best, especially our youngest students, and how many adults learn best at the same time. When your kids go back to the guided reading table, think about how you can stimulate that engagement and motivation. So a lot of our kids, when they look at the guided reading table and all they see are books or pencils and paper, very often that is not going to be enough to hook in our more reluctant readers and writers. And adding in very simple manipulatives, anything that they can do with their hands, anything kind of novel and fun, is a wonderful way to really engage and hook our kids in. It's also going to lead to more retention of those concepts for our students. Anytime that you can connect those 3 main pathways in the brain, your visual, your auditory, your kinesthetic, it's kind of the magical trifecta of making those learning concepts stick and then transferring to the long-term memory. And of course, we know that anything hands-on is developmentally appropriate for our students. We know that's why there's such a huge emphasis on play, the way you're warriors and passionate for more play in the classroom whenever possible, because we know that it connects all of those areas of the brain. And of course, we want to make sure that we are accessing all of our kids' learning styles. So anytime they're doing something with their hand combined with something visual and then talking about the That is where to really make the most bang with those multiple learning styles. So the research behind kinesthetic learning is just a little bit of background information, kind of similar to the strategies I just shared before. They learn even more than when they are taught only through one pathway. The more senses we involve, the more learning occurs. And of course, that engagement and that fun piece is another piece of that as well. So this session, just in case you are here and wondering who this session is appropriate for, classroom teachers, reading specialists, special education teachers, ELL teachers, anyone who teaches reading in any sort of capacity. If you are a homeschool parent, if you are teaching virtually or teaching reading in some capacity, this is going to be appropriate for you. And hopefully you're going to have lots of strategies that you can take back to your students. Please feel free to take pictures of anything throughout the webinar that you want to remember for later, so that you can definitely come back to those strategies. At the very end of the presentation, I am going to share a free download with you with some of the materials I'm going to share, and then we're also going to be giving away a reading construction toolkit. So stick around, you won't want to miss that. So when those hands-on strategies are going to be appropriate is really any time of the day that you are teaching reading and writing. I'm going to show you all different ways to do that. You often think of those hands-on components for literacy centers. That is where we most see anytime kids are working with your hands. I'm going to show you some different ways to do some phonics and word work that you may not have tried before. Very easy to incorporate those hands-on strategies. Then small group and guided reading may not be a time that you really have more hands-on components, and I'm going to show you some super simple ways that you can apply specifically to those comprehension skills for your students. You can also use these strategies for quick interventions or tutoring for your students, or if you have enough materials, you can also use these strategies whole class. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is word work, simple ways that you can really make those hands-on learning concepts stick for your students. This is a strategy with the pipe cleaners and the beads that I used in my classroom many years ago when we were doing blends in the class. However, it can be applied to many different skills. And it's just a pipe cleaner that has been wrapped around and so they hold it between their fingers. You can use it for segmenting sounds, blending sounds, syllable count. They can grab and drag a bead over for the syllable count. And they can also, I'll put my computer in real quick, guys. Make sure. They'll just slide the beads over for those different strategies. You can have some sort of written component with any of the strategies I'm fixing to share with you. You can use something as simple as a dry erase mat where they just write the words that you are doing together. You can also do these completely independently of the written component. They're still going to be reaching that visual, that auditory, and that kinesthetic when they are using only the manipulatives. When you add in that written component, that's kind of the perfect closure piece. And once you hook them in with those manipulatives, that writing piece is a little bit less overwhelming. So on the right side, you may have seen these on Instagram before. I think Instagram's the only platform that I have seen them. They're kind of all the rage right now. I did just order one for my daughter and my son to use. It's called a pop fidget toy. So one of my friends found one at Target, but they are mainly available on Amazon in little packs. And they just have little bubbles that you pop over. They come in 2 packs and I think in 4 packs. Wonderful addition to the guided reading table where you can have them count out the words. I was actually doing it with spelling words with my son the other day. He was also spelling the names of the people he knew, so he was doing mom and dad and punching the different dots for each letter of the name. You can also do similar strategies with syllable count and word count. If you don't have those, I think they're like I said, they're brand new. They're kind of all the rage. Great addition to adding that hands-on word work component. I also saw on Instagram people using them for math. I know that's a different presentation, but they were using them for teaching arrays and also for teaching area and perimeter, which I thought was super, super smart. So another addition to word work that you might not think of for word work is Lego. You can use Duplo blocks, you can use actual Lego. I'm a big fan of Strictly Bricks from Amazon. That is kind of an imitation Lego brand. And you don't need very many to do this with your kids at the guided reading table or to do it whole class. So in this case, I would probably have some sort of written component for my students so that they had it separate next to them as they were doing the different strategies. But they can do contractions. So they could do will and then not, and then put them on Lego and they would say won't. And then on their paper, they would write will, not, and won't. And then they could even draw the Lego so that it kind of matches the structure. Very similar thing for compound words. They can put the different foot and ball and then put them together, football. You could also either add a third one and do prefixes, root words, and suffixes going all the way across, or you could do them kind of in isolation and do like preschool with the prefixes, or you could do with suffixes or inflectional endings that way too. Very easy way. I tell you, anytime you incorporate Lego into anything, that is an automatic hook for, I know for my students. Hopefully it is for yours as well. Very easy component to add into your guided reading or any sort of whole class instruction too. Magnets are also magical. I actually did magnets yesterday with my kindergartners, and I had to just let them explore all around our classroom, all the different magnetic materials in our classroom, because they just think that they're wonderful and fun. So you can make easy magnetic sticks with just the ceramic magnetic buttons, and you can either glue or tape them onto sticks. Hand to Mind also has some amazing magnetic wands that you can use all across your curriculum. They're awesome. And for rhyming words, they would stick them together. So they might say bat and sat. And if they rhyme, they would stick them together. If not, they would pull them apart. So that's great, kind of that auditory, that kinesthetic, hearing the rhyme. And then if they don't rhyme, they pull them apart. Before I did this with magnets, I actually had my kids clap if they rhymed or pull them apart. So this is just kind of a different strategy for that. You can also use these magnetic wands for comparing and contrasting concepts or characters or events in the story. So they can pull the magnets together when they are finding the similarities between two things, pull them apart when they are finding the differences. So this is a tray that I actually found at Target about 2 weeks ago. It's designed for paint. So if you don't see them at your local Target dollar spot, if you can get any kind of paint tray like at Hobby Lobby that has the divided containers. But I'm going to show you a quick video for different strategies that you can do with these paint trays. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. Okay, so those are some different strategies that you can do with Play-Doh, where you can press the sounds and go across, kind of similar to the beads that I showed you before. You can also do the mini cups to segment into the different syllables of a word. The magnetic chips and magnetic wands, they're actually from Hand to Mind. You can do those with your different sounds too, but those play trays kind of paint trays, keep those things divided for your students and make it a little bit more fun. Okay, so let's talk about some simple strategies for word building. So very often you might use some cubes that have letters on them. Those are some of my favorite tools that you can use with your students. Another easy and inexpensive option is to use mini cups. You can print address labels with the letters of the alphabet, stick them on the front of the cup. Fun fact, actually, bath cups that are white plastic bath cups are also dry erase. They're white and white. So even if you don't want to put stickers on your cups, you can leave out a specific sound. Your students can write with a dry erase marker on the white plastic cups, and then they can erase them, and you can reuse them for different concepts. You can also do something similar with address labels and kind of make your own cubes. These are just Duplo blocks on the bottom right corner. You can also do the same thing with mega blocks, those plastic big blocks, and stick your own sounds on there and do word work that way. And these are great, guys, not only for literacy centers, they are great for that guided reading table as well. So now let's talk about some comprehension strategies, really ways to make those difficult concepts for our students, those deeper comprehension strategies come to life in a way that they can discuss the different components of the story and then transfer them to writing. So Pop Cubes or Snap Cubes or Unifix Cubes and Lego are both wonderful tools anytime you're doing some sort of a sequencing from a story or retelling the story. I know for my students, whenever they are writing summaries, whenever they are writing or retelling a story, very often we have to do that auditory component first. We have to discuss, we have to walk through the important parts of the story. And this is what the guided reading table is for, is really modeling those strategies for our students, showing them the important components of sequencing and retelling. So very easy, your students have however many cubes or Lego that you would like them to do for the events of the story. They add one cube each time they are sharing the event of the story. Wonderful way to kind of enter that long-term memory, make it stick, and then transfer it to writing. You can also have them write with each component. So as they add the second event of the story, they can then write the second event of the story, add their third cube and write that, and then on to the end. Very similar strategy for Lego, but you would stack up. So they would start at the very bottom, then they'd add another event and then another event and so on, going all the way up. And what I love about these is they don't require a ton of materials for our students. You only need 4 or 5 snap cubes for your kids to use, and then you can kind of keep them near your guided reading table. Kind of applying that to upper grades, if you would like to dive more into more elements of plot, you can do exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. So you can see those are the bigger Lego. You can kind of stretch them out a little bit more and make a plot pyramid. Wonderful way to kind of make that very difficult concept of plot stick for our older students. You know, I'm a big fan of using mini cups for all kinds of things. My kids just love them. A very easy way to do story elements with your students is to have them make a story pyramid. So you can draw on the cups, or you can either cut out or put shapes on the cups that have symbols for the different important story elements. And you can add as many story elements as you like. This is just kind of the more simple part of it. So I have characters with the heart, the time and the place is the setting, problem and solution and the main idea. Of course, you can add other elements of the story, kind of like theme or lesson, if you would like to add those to your story pyramid. That is a fun way for them to build the story, discuss it, and then apply it to writing after that. So this is actually the concept that inspired all of my hands-on learning, hands-on especially with comprehension concept, is cause and effect. This is the one that I did in my class many years ago, and cause and effect is one of the more challenging concepts to teach, as you know. And for me, when I thought of cause and effect, I pictured dominoes connecting to one another. And my students would line up their dominoes, we'd talk about what the cause was, push the domino, and it caused the other domino to fall over. This was a strategy that really, really stuck with my students and kind of, like I said, inspired me to kind of think of other ways that we could apply those manipulatives to those more difficult concepts. And anytime we would revisit cause and effect, my kids would immediately say, oh, like the dominoes. It was something that they had made an immediate connection with, and then they were able to apply it again and again throughout the school year. And that's exactly what we were going for. Popsicle sticks are also a very easy way to apply more complex concepts. I have Velcro on the ends of my popsicle sticks. You do not have to make them actually connect. You can just lay them on top of each other, and it has a similar effect. Great way for them to kind of see how different things are connected in this story. So summarizing, as we know, is a difficult concept to teach. When somebody wanted and but so, I actually have them write when they are finished the somebody wanted but so piece by piece, really helping them to visualize and remember that those are the important pieces of a simple summary. You can also do similar strategies for vocabulary and text evidence. So with vocabulary, I have a word, meaning, and sentence, and I just wrote on these sticks with a Sharpie, nothing fancy. You can make it a little bit more upper grade appropriate. You can add in parts of speech. You can add a definition instead of the meaning of the word and make it a little bit more appropriate for that age. Text evidence is one of the most difficult concepts to teach as well. Teaching them they can use a page number, they can use an example, and they can use a detail to support their answers in the story. So pattern blocks we very often think of as being used only during our math blocks. And you guys know that, especially with my STEM bins, any kind of math manipulatives we use for engineering, we use for building, we use for literacy as well. So here are some simple strategies for using pattern blocks when it comes to simple comprehension skills in your class. So with the characters, you can use the green triangles and the hexagon for character traits. They can place a different triangle on top of the hexagon as they are sharing different traits from the story. Of course, with older kids as well, you want to make sure that they give that text evidence when it comes to giving the character trait from the story. You can also have internal and external character traits. You can talk about how the character traits change throughout the story as well. You can make it as difficult or as simple as you would like. With author's purpose, you can do blue rhombuses, and you can put them and put them on top of a hexagon similar like before. I just wrote on those with a Sharpie, PIE, for the different three authors' purposes: persuade, inform, or entertain. They choose which one matches the story. They put it on the hexagon, and then they have to give text evidence to support their reasons for that. For problem and solution, you can use the red trapezoids with the hexagon, connect them to show the problem and the solution and how that connects to the lesson in the story. Super simple ways to use pattern blocks, and hopefully something you already have in your class. So the main reason why I think these strategies are very important, as I mentioned before, is because it boosts that engagement of our students. These are actual kids using my original comprehension construction toolkits, which are found as a download on TPT. I have a lower grades and upper grades version. You put together the things yourself inside your toolkits in a container with all the different comprehension strategies. And then Hand to Mind has ready stocked kits that I'm going to show you in just a little while. But each of them has not only a building concept, they also have an organizer that matches the building material so that you can transfer it to the writing as well. So Hand to Mind has very recently, we joined this partnership, created these reading construction toolkits. We do have 3 different grade level bands for K1, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 5th. And at the end, we're going to give away one of these kits to one of you guys. And I'm so excited to get to that in just a little while. It does have all of the manipulatives included that you needed for the concepts. It has task cards as well as organizers for each concept. What I love about these toolkits is that it combines both word work and comprehension. My products on TPT are split into one, word work and comprehension. This is everything that you need. And the lessons are just beautifully designed. They've done an awesome job. So kind of a closer look at what's included in those kits and the 3 different kits that we have to choose from. So make sure they're differentiated according to y'all's standards. So let's talk about how to incorporate more hands-on strategies into your literacy centers. Anytime I can find a literacy center that is my kid's favorite literacy center, usually it is one that is hands-on. And I think that you know exactly how I feel with that anything that they beg to go to or they ask to do a literacy center twice. And one of my favorite ways to make those literacy centers come to life is to choose a few STEM bins to put in a literacy center, and they simply build, draw, and write. These STEM bins are available for order through Hand to Mind. You can also make your own STEM bins. It is a download on TPT, and all of the printables and writing components are included with that. You have task cards, so your students build the structure that's on the task card, then they draw the structure on the very top of their paper, and then they write about it. Very much appropriate for all grade levels. And you can actually do a lot of different styles of writing with this particular type of build. So they can write sentences to tell how their structure looks and feels, more of a descriptive type of paragraph, writing about colors, shapes, and sizes. They could write a how-to paragraph telling someone how to build their structure using the words first, next, and last, kind of that procedural writing. Or they could make up an imaginative or creative story, which is one of my kids' favorites. That's usually, if they get to pick, that is definitely the one that they like to pick. It's a creative fantasy fictional story that uses the structure as the setting or the place in the story. And we're going to do a little bit more with that in just a little bit. So these are called quick writes, and I'm actually going to give you a download at the very end that has these in it. Very, very simple to simply pair with any STEM bin. So you might pair them with dominoes or base 10 blocks or pattern blocks, Lego, plus blocks, anything your kids can build with. Put the bins into a literacy center. I usually give them 2 or 3 to choose from, and then they have some sort of simple writing component that goes along with that. So wonderful words, this is what I do with my kindergartners every year. I actually do that one with a partner writing, and they build something together, and then they take turns coming up with 10 words about their structure. You can also advance that to super sentences. You can do parts of speech. The file I'm going to give you is going to have lots of different options. So you can kind of look through those and decide which ones would apply best to the age of your students. There are going to be upper grade and lower grade components included. So build a story is one of my final and favorite ways that I love to really incorporate hands-on creative writing, fantasy writing, anything that is really going to hook my kids. I actually just did build a story with my virtual students last week, and I wasn't really sure how it was going to turn out. I did not limit them to only Lego. So if you are teaching virtually or you have students at home that you would like to try this with, I would open it up to any materials they have to build with at home. And really, they actually did an amazing job. A lot of them did use Lego, but a lot of them just used things all around their house. So for build a story, your students need, if you're going to do this in the classroom setting, it's helpful if you have some sort of base plates. You can buy those in bulk on Amazon, and of course Lego sells them as well. That's going to be the setting of their story. You also need building bricks so that they can build the setting of their story, and minifigures. Minifigures are a little bit more expensive when it comes to Lego, so a lot of times I will have my students bring them from home so that we can borrow them, use them in our Lego stores, and then they can take them back home. For these components, I would never recommend buying out of pocket for things like this. Ask for parent donations if that is something that is allowed in your district or school. Donors Choose grants are wonderful for Lego or Build a Story, and of course, kind of look for those Amazon wish lists that you can make, that you can share with anyone that might be willing to donate to your school. So this is something, let me show you a little bit more of how Build a Story works. So in this case, where the one I did with my my students, kindergarten all the way through 3rd grade last week, is they were to build a fantasy story. And I'm going to give you a copy of this as well, so you can do it with your students. So we talk about the genre, we talk about the books that apply to that genre, what type of books are fantasy in our classroom, what elements make up a fantasy story. I give them suggestions for characters just to kind of get their brains going, but very often they completely go off and choose their own. A lot of times they may take an existing fantasy story or an existing fairy tale and they will twist it and add their own characters and add their own settings. They love to do that. Or they'll take a movie and they'll do the kind of the same thing. I do give them suggested settings as well, so they can choose one of those or they can build whatever setting they would like. So this is kind of to get them started, thinking about what they would like to build. And there's 3 steps. They're going to plan their story. So this is a very simple organizer for my little ones where they just plan the character in the setting. As they go up, of course, they plan the problem, the solution, beginning, middle, and end. For my upper grade kiddos, I actually had them come up with an element of magic. They also had to come up with some sort of quest or a journey that their characters were going to take. After they plan their story, that's just something, oh, I didn't mention this, this is important. When you're doing this in the classroom setting, I always do it in groups of 2 or 3. It is a wonderful collaborative experience for your students to be able to build, draw, and write together. At home, obviously, that was a little bit different this year, but it makes for a wonderful project that can be extended across a full week. You can do a little bit each day, plan one day, build one day, build more the next day, and then write and present. It's a wonderful kind of end of the year project. It's something that when I'm teaching in person, I say this for the very end of the year to do with my students. So after they plan, they're going to build their story. For my kindergarten and 1st graders, I have them only build 1 scene to kind of keep things a little bit more simple. For 2nd grade and up, they build 3 scenes. They build the beginning, middle, and end, which allows for so much creativity. They come up with different settings that where their story can change as it kind of moves through the story. Also a wonderful opportunity when they write their story to incorporate a lot of dialogue between their characters. If you have not taught dialogue yet and you're looking for something that's really going to hook your kids in, this is the way to do it. Build a Story naturally lends itself to these characters talking to each other. So as a final kind of wrap up to Build a Story, we always present them in some sort of digital way. So the Pic Collage app is one of my favorite ways to do this. You can choose the grid tool and they can take pictures of their different scenes, move their characters around. They can also add speech bubbles. You can kind of see on the left side and have their characters talking to each other. That can be part of their presentation. They can kind of take them and move them in different ways. You can also do stop motion videos. I actually did not assign stop motion to my students for the Build a Story for my virtual students, and some of them did stop motion videos on their own as they incorporated them instead of pictures. They added them into a video, which was really, really cool. There's an app called Draw and Tell, which is one of my favorites too. I think I have a slide on that. Or if you want to do some sort of mini green screen for your Lego figures, you can do that as well with the Do Ink. Do Ink is my favorite green screen app. All right, guys. So I do have a free download for you, and I'm actually going to, I need to type it in. Chris, is there, if I type in something, can they see it?
If you type it into the chat, then yes, everybody will. Yeah, use the chat for that.
I'm going to type in the link for the free download, and it's going to have, oh wait, hang on, let's try this again.
Yeah, choose all entire audience.
Okay, I can't select the entire audience.
Okay, I will put it in there.
Yeah, will you put it to the end? I'm sorry. I want to make sure that. Did it come up?
I'm type. Whoops, hold on. We're typing it in now. You're going to have to excuse the. There. Now everybody should be able to see it, right?
Okay, I see. Yes. Okay. So that is the link, guys. Make sure it's all lowercase when you are typing it in. Make sure you can take a picture of it or write that down. That is going to have a set of quick writes that you can apply with STEM bins for both upper grades and lower grades. And it's also going to have the fantasy Build a Story. So whether you're teaching virtually or hybrid or in person, I hope that it's a wonderful end of the year project because we are actually almost to the end of the year. We've almost made it. It's a great way to kind of wrap up your year. So I hope you guys enjoy that. And let's see.
Some folks are saying that it doesn't seem to work.
Okay,
the
I could
Bitly.
say it out low. I wonder if I could. Here's what I'll do. Can you guys can still see my screen? Yes, can you see it?
Yes.
Yes. Here's what I'll do. I'm gonna type it in here. Okay. All right. Can everybody, Chris, can you see that?
I can see it, and that is what I put in the chat.
Sorry
I
about that,
think.
guys.
Oh,
I
forgot the slash. That was my fault. I forgot the slash.
bit.ly/hand to mind webinar, all lowercase, all one word.
And that should work then.
Okay. And that will have
before we go to the questions, I wanted to let you know that the winner of the Reading Construction Toolkits is Christine Esmond. Christine, we will email you, and you may choose your kit.
Well, congratulations, Christine. We hope that you love it. All right, so I'm going to go to question. I'm going to leave this up in case you didn't get a chance to write it down. But if you have any questions, that I am here and ready to listen. But if not, I'm so glad that you guys came and spent a little bit of time, especially after teaching all day. It means a lot to me that you guys came, and hopefully you learned a little bit of tips and tricks for how to make hands-on literacy a more regular part of your classroom, whether it's just one strategy you learned today, or hopefully you got a little bit more things to add to your toolkits. But thank you so much for coming.
Well, we don't have any questions, but we have lots of people saying thank you, Brooke. And on behalf of Hand to Mind, I want to thank you very much. And we want to thank everyone who attended today's webinar. And a reminder that we will have one again in 2 weeks from today. So
right. If you have any
thanks,
questions,
everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
And there is one question about being available to rewatch. You will receive an email with a link to the recording so that, yes, you may absolutely rewatch it as many times as you want.
And guys, please feel free to email me. My email is brooke@teachoutside-the-box.com. And if you have any questions or suggestions for things to add to make my hands-on literacy even better, I would love to hear from you. Thank you guys for coming. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Hopefully it goes.
Question on whether the link will expire, Brooke.
Do what? The link? This link will not expire.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care, guys.